How livable is Grimsby, Ontario, and is it right for you and your family? Well, in today's video, we're going to be jumping in and looking at the Area Vibes website to see how Grimsby, Ontario ranks on their livability index, which takes into account 9 different factors, from the amenities to the commute, to the cost of living, the crime rate, the employment, the healthcare, housing, the schools and neighborhood ratings, and puts it in an index out of 100. Now, I can tell you right now, with just quickly glancing at this list, there's a lot I agree with, but there's a lot I also disagree with. So if you want to learn everything about what it's like living in Grimsby, Ontario, make sure you keep on watching. And if you're new here and want to learn everything about what it's like not living only in Grimsby, but also Hamilton, Burlington, Oakville, and the surrounding cities, make sure to hit the subscribe button. My name is Matthew, the founding realtor of the Living in Hamilton channel and team, and for the past couple of years we've been helping dozens of families like yourselves relocate here and buy a home. And in today's video, we're jumping on into the Area Vibes website and breaking all of it down so you get a perspective from a local that has helped hundreds of families relocate here to this area. So I won't waste any more time. Let's just jump on into the computer and go through what the Area Vibes website thinks of Grimsby's livability. So as you can see here with Grimsby on the map, first and foremost, yes, this is technically the borders of Grimsby, but the vast majority of Grimsby residents really live actually within this half triangle right here to choose from. And within total, Grimsby was rated an F in some communities, an A in others, and in between with different housings, with an overall livability score of 68 out of 100. So let's dive into each of the categories and see how accurate they are. So right here, the first thing it notices is the population is about 31,000 people. That's on par with what I was finding with the Statistics Canada. It's a slightly older median age by 1 or 2 years compared to Hamilton or Burlington, but roughly the same thing. Then if we look at the crime rate, it is lower than the Ontario average, but the cost of living is also lower, which we'll get into how effective the cost of living is compared to the surrounding areas, because it really does depend on what you're comparing Grimsby to. Then if we scroll down here and we first take a look at their first category, and it's the amenities, and it's been given an F. So if we first start with the parks, they actually are a bit more accurate with Grimsby's compared to the other cities in terms of the parks. They have some of the main parks here, in particular like Wolverton Park, Centennial Park are two of the main parks in Grimsby, but a few that I think that they forgot to mention would be Beamer Memorial Conservation Park, which is a great hiking trails right on top of the Grimsby Mountain, and that's why it offers some stunning views of both downtown Grimsby and Lake Ontario. And then it doesn't mention it here, but 2 waterfront parks you'll need to check out when living in Grimsby would be the Grimsby Beach, as well as the Painted Ladies, otherwise known as the gingerbread houses. These are old Victorian homes that were now been painted up with a variety of fun different colors. Or you can find a smaller waterfront park in the Nels Beach Park, which just offers a jungle gym as well as ample green space for your kids to enjoy while you enjoy some stunning views of Lake Ontario. And then off in the distance, oftentimes you can find Burlington, Oakville's Mississauga, and Toronto skyline on the horizon. Now, in terms of one other park I would mention, but technically not in Grimsby, but with that said, you're just right beside Grimsby, is 50 Point Conservation Area. It's a large conservation area, in my opinion, the best beach in and around Grimsby, just the most amount of options to choose from in terms of space. It's also a sandy beach, where Grimsby's beach is a rock beach, but then also you have a variety of hiking trails as well as a marina to enjoy at the 50 Point Conservation Area. So overall, I wouldn't give parks an F, I would give it probably a B-. Then in terms of the entertainment in Grimsby, this is going to be one of the things lacking, because Grimsby is more of that small town and just has a lot of small town charm, but not a lot to do. So yes, you do have a couple of different museums like the Grimsby Museum, the Nels Manor, the Grimsby Public Art Library. One thing I would mention here, it doesn't mention it anywhere here, is there's 2 other great things. You have the 40 Creek Distillery, which was actually rated on TripAdvisor the #1 thing to do in Grimsby. Go get a tour and go do some tastings for some amazing whiskey. But then you'll also have a variety of different wineries, as Grimsby is a part of the Niagara region. So within about a 30-minute drive, you have easily over 90 different wineries to choose from if you're into trying a variety of local wines. Now, with that said, the entertainment here, I would say at best is about a C-, because again, it is a small town. Then in terms of the food and drink category, While it isn't as good as the surrounding areas of either St. Catharines or Hamilton, which it's too bordering, it is better than like the Lincoln or Beamsville because it's a little bit more diverse. Now, with that said, I can promise you there are better things to eat than Pizza, Domino's, Geno's Pizza, Pita Pit. Some of my favorite local gems you'll need to check out when living in Grimsby is you first have the Olive Board and Charcuterie Wine Bar, which is perfect to catch up with some old friends and enjoy a variety of meats and cheeses paired with some local wine. You have Urban Craving, which is awesome, which offers some amazing smoothie bowls and salads. Or you have Lang on the Water, in my opinion, the best Vietnamese food in all of Grimsby. And then a few other quick spots that you'll find in downtown Grimsby is you have Station 1 Coffee House to enjoy a coffee and get some work done. You have Noni's Pizzeria for an amazing pizza, and then Ted Sports Bar to watch any local games that are going on that you want to make sure you don't miss. It's an absolutely great environment. I've been there once or twice and could not recommend it more. So in terms of the food and drinks, I would give this like a B minus because you do have some good local gems that are definitely better than this list here. However, like I mentioned, compared to some bigger cities, it's not going to offer you the same amount of options to choose from. Then if we scroll down here and look at the next one, we have the commute time, which is a D minus, as only 0.9% of people take public transit in Grimsby. 37% of people drive to work, 1% it says here take public transit, and 2% walk to work. I imagine this number is very small. 2% is small, but I imagine it's even smaller than 2%. And this is because Grimsby is really going to be a car town. One, because it's really a commuter town. I know a lot of my clients that are relocating outside of Toronto like Grimsby because it's right beside the QEW. So you can either head out to Niagara Falls on the US border or out to the GTA, quickly just jump on the highway. And for the most part, like when you're driving around Grimsby, the drive isn't bad. Like it's a little slow going over the Skyway. However, when you're actually get off the highway in Grimsby, other than I would say like the downtown core of Grimsby, there really is no traffic bottleneck. So once you arrive to Grimsby, you can get home quite quickly. So I understand why it's a D minus. I'd probably get like a D plus, but that's very subjective there. Then in terms of the cost of living, so it was rated a D plus on the Area Vibes website, as it's 12% lower than the Ontario average. However, 2% less expensive in Grimsby. I don't necessarily know what these numbers mean. What I can say though, in terms of the real estate prices, it really is going to depend on where you're looking at. If you're comparing Grimsby's real estate prices to like Central Hamilton, the Hamilton Mountains, St. Catharines, even Beamsville and Lincoln, they're going to be more expensive. However, with that said, I know a lot of my clients are thinking about Burlington and maybe considering Grimsby, in which case Grimsby's real estate cost is a bit more affordable. So same with Ancaster and Waterdown for that matter. You can find a similar size home or slightly bigger in Grimsby for the same cost. So in terms of the real estate cost, it really does depend on where you're looking at it, but I wouldn't give it a D plus. And then just in terms of general cost of living in general, from the hydro to the electricity to the Wi-Fi to groceries to the gym membership, I would say it's very on par with the Ontario average as well as the other cities like Hamilton in terms of the general cost of living. Then we move down to the crime rate, which was rated an A minus on the Area Vibes website. And it's 23% lower than the Ontario average, with only total crime being 2,363 out of 100,000 people. This is a much smaller number in reality because you only have about a third of the population in Grimsby, so it's about a third of that number you could say for the total crime, and 44% lower than the Canadian average, which is nice to see. Like I mentioned, while on the flip side, there is less food, there's less entertainment to do in Grimsby, because it has that small town feel, the safety in Grimsby is absolutely amazing. However, if you want to learn more, I'll leave a link down below so you can go check out the police crime map to get the full map of everything that's happening in Grimsby right from the source. Then in terms of the employment, the median income in Grimsby is $106,500 essentially speaking, with 49% of the people in the labor force and only 3% have unemployment rate. Now, what I would say is because Grimsby is a small town, you're typically going to be finding people commuting outside of Grimsby. There's not much employment within Grimsby. With that said, like you see here, the labor force is quite high. The unemployment rate is quite low. And that's because, one, it's a small area, so there's not much homelessness is what you're going to be finding. But two, because you have that easy access to the QEW, that's why I think one of the reasons why the median household income is above $100,000 here. Now, if you want to learn more about the employment or find an area that has better employment, Hamilton's going to offer a lot of jobs. Same with the Niagara region. With that said, Grimsby's right in the middle of that, so you also get easy access to both of them there. Now, the health and safety was rated a B+, and I think that's actually a pretty fair ranking here, as you have one main hospital in Grimsby, which is the West Lincoln Memorial Hospital, and it's actually going under a revitalization and expanding into an additional wing. So you should see in the coming years when you move here, it being a bit more refreshed. Now, with that said, that's the only hospital. It's a regional hospital, so not the biggest, but with that said, you're right beside Hamilton and all the amazing hospitals that Hamilton has to offer you, as well as the Niagara region. And then in terms of like family doctors, other specialty doctors, those you're going to have to travel probably to the Niagara region to really get access to more specialty doctors, because Grimsby is a small town. Just a small town. And that's just the reality of it. With that said, you will find a few medical family practices within Grimsby. And then in terms of pharmacy, for the most part, you're going to find a couple of Shoppers Drug Mart really close to the main area or downtown Grimsby, you could call it, to offer you a couple of Shoppers Drug Mart. Then we go to housing. It's rated an A+, but they don't have any of the median home value, median rent price. So if you're interested in learning more about the housing, what you can get based on your search criteria, send me and my team a message today. We'd be happy to jump on a call with you, break down the areas that would be the right fit for you based on what you guys are looking for, as well as what you can get based on the search criteria you're looking for and how much it's going to cost you. We can dive into all those numbers and more. What I would say, like I mentioned before, Grimsby is kind of middle of the pack. It's a bit more expensive than some areas of Hamilton, but also a bit more affordable than others. A little bit more expensive than St. Catharines and Niagara Falls, but more affordable than Burlington and Oakville. So it really does depend on what it's looking for. I'd probably rate it a B+. The one downside of Grimsby, because it is quite small, there's just less options to choose from compared to some other areas like Hamilton or St. Catharines. And then in terms of the Grimsby schools, it was rated an A-. I still would say this is pretty good because most of them in Grimsby are, according to the Fraser Institute, which takes the Ontario Standardized Test of 3, 6, and 9 and puts it into an index. Most of the Grimsby schools are rating above the provincial average, so would have to agree with this score here of being an A-. Then we have the user rating of an A, but there's only 2 reviews it came from, so not sure where the reviews exactly came from, and not really a great statistical size. With that said, it's nice to see that it's an A here as well. So now that you have a good understanding of exactly the livability in Grimsby, let's jump onto Grimsby's map, as unfortunately Area Vibes doesn't give the best neighborhoods. With that said, I'll give you a general lay of the land, but if you want to learn more in detail, the best and worst neighborhoods in Grimsby, keep on watching. So first over here, we'll go over here, and this the 2 newer areas. You have Grimsby on the Lake. This is really popular with a lot of young professionals that are looking for those newer townhomes and newer condos that have waterfront views. Laying on the water is here, the best Vietnamese place. You have a nice Casablanca beach right there as well to choose from, and it is a fantastic spot if you're looking to commute to Toronto and want something relatively new. Now, you're not going to be finding many detached homes here. However, with that said, if we move on just south of the QEW is where you're going to be finding Casablanca. This area here is really going to be offering you a lot of newer detached homes in particular, but also a great mix of townhomes to choose from, also on the east side. However, you're a little bit more tucked away from the lake. Now, with that said, one of the great areas about this here is you have the Peach King Center, which is a great community center, the main one in Grimsby, but it also is home to the Grimsby Farmers Market every single week during the warmer months. Then if we move more into the middle of Grimsby, that's where you're going to be finding like downtown Grimsby right here, as well as Grimsby Lakeside right here. These here are the 2 main original areas other than Nell's Estates, which we'll talk about in just a second, where you're going to be finding really those side splits, those back splits, those bungalows with large size lots and mature trees with some fantastic properties either right along the water or tucked into the escarpment that are even bigger than the average, and I could not recommend them more. This is also where you're going to find the majority of shopping is going to be in the downtown Grimsby here. If you're really on the other side of the QEW in Grimsby, not much shopping, primarily residential areas only. And then if we move over more, we have like Nell's and Dorchester Estate right here. So Nell's Estates is like this one right here, and it really is going to be more of those original neighborhoods with those side splits and back splits. Dorchester Estates was really built in the last 10 years or so. So lots of great 2-story homes to choose from as well. And then a little bit further out, so it does take a little bit extra time, like another 10 minutes if you're commuting into Toronto. However, with that said, offers more brand new real estate options to choose from, and that's going to be the east side of Grimsby right here. Then one last area I'll quickly mention of Grimsby is the Grimsby Beach, which is located just here. It's actually where those gingerbread homes with the painted ladies are found, as well as the Grimsby Beach itself. Here, it's going to be a mixture of homes typically built in the 90s or early 2000s that you're going to be finding established neighborhoods. Now, if you want to learn more about each one of the neighborhoods that we just quickly covered, then the next video I'd recommend you go take a look at is my video breaking down the best and worst areas of Grimsby in detail based on what you're looking for. So you can find that video right here. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day.